Mine heart within me is broken because of the prophets. All my bones shake. I am like a drunken man, and like a man whom wine hath overcome, because of Yahweh, and because of the words of his holiness. For the land is full of adulterers. For because of swearing the land mourneth. The pleasant places of the wilderness are dried up, and their course is evil, and their force is not right. For both prophet and priest are profane, yea, in my house have I found their wickedness, saith Yahweh. Wherefore their way shall be unto them as slippery ways in the darkness. They shall be driven on and fall therein, for I will bring evil upon them, even the year of their visitation, saith Yahweh. And I have seen folly in the prophets of Samaria. They prophesied in Baal, and caused my people Israel to err. I have seen also in the prophets of Jerusalem an horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen also the hands of evildoers, that none doth return from his wickedness. They are all of them unto me as Sodom, and the inhabitants thereof as Gomorrah. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh of hosts concerning the prophets, Behold, I will feed them with wormwood, and make them drink the water of gall. For from the prophets of Jerusalem is profaneness gone forth into all the land. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, Hearken not unto the words of the prophets that prophesy unto you. They make you vain. They speak a vision of their own heart, and not out of the mouth of Yahweh. They say still unto them that despise me, Yahweh hath said, Ye shall have peace. And they say unto everyone that walketh after the imagination of his own heart, No evil shall come upon you. For who hath stood in the counsel of Yahweh, and hath perceived and heard his word? Who hath marked his word and heard it? Behold, a whirlwind of Yahweh is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked. The anger of Yahweh shall not return until he have executed, until he have performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it perfectly. I have not sent these prophets, yet they ran. I have not spoken to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, and had caused my people to hear my words, then they should have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their doings. Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai Ba, Recha HaKodash, Kol Thapa Arath, Hawad Wahaloyim, Rawatham Yatla, Allahayanawa, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai Ba, Recha HaKodash. And what I just said in the Lashon Kodash being the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, or in other words, the true biblical Hebrew for holy tongue or language. And what I just said is, all glory, honor, and praises abundantly and continuously to our power, Yahweh, the true name of our Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls God, in the name of his only begotten Son, our Savior, our Messiah, our Deliverer, Yahweh Shai, HaMashiach, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls Jesus Christ, in, or in other words, through the Holy Spirit. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching and pushing this truth throughout the four corners of the earth. To the hopeful elect, the 144,000 and the 1/3, as well as the rest of the elect scattered abroad amongst the heathen nations to the four corners of the earth, east, north, south, and west. To you I say, Shalom. This is your brother Ra'ib Tazadakwa coming back at you again, all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, with another lesson. Yahweh Ratazah is going to be edifying and encouraging for you Achim brothers and any Achwa sisters that may be listening and or watching. Now, first thing I'm going to say is that this isn't in transit. I am on the road, so if there's any pauses, hesitations, or delays, you know why. And I do appreciate your patience and understanding in that regard, and say Thawada, which is the ancient Paleo Hebrew for thank you. I say Thawada in advance. The second thing I'm going to say is that this is part 22 in an ongoing lesson series, which has been sparked by an encounter, several encounters I've had with a specific brother in the IUIC Lexington, Kentucky camp, and also had a encounter with, I want to say it was the whole camp. I'd imagine it was the whole camp. I didn't interact with the whole camp, but I ran into the whole camp at a local restaurant, and I had already started the lesson series by that time because it was really sparked from my encounter with the brother that I had run into several times, and so this lesson series is sparked by those encounters, and that's the reason why IUIC is being featured. However, this is a call to repentance for all brothers, no matter what camp banner you're under, to repent from your false doctrines and to purge the leaven out of your doctrines. Okay, as it is written, a little leaven at the whole lump, right? And focusing back on IUIC, but this is not just about IUIC, but I am focusing on IUIC. I'm using them as the main example because, again, I ran into the brothers in the IUIC Lexington, Kentucky camp, and everything was cordial, and that's good. Barakatah Yahweh Shema Shah for that. But obviously we were on different sides of the fence, and I don't think I'm going to be able to reach those brothers. I don't think I'm going to be able to reach those brothers. Those brothers seem to be pretty dug in, which is typically the case with IUIC brothers. And it's typically the case with brothers in other different camps anyway. But IUIC, I don't think those brothers are going to listen. But nevertheless, whether they hear or forbear, this is a call to repentance. But those brothers have given me reason. I never was very optimistic in the first place. Really, things are going the way that I expected them to go. And I just had another run-in with that brother that I first had the first run-in with, some months ago now. I want to say about 4.5 or so months ago now. That brother, I had another encounter with him. The spirit has it set up where I keep running into that brother from IUIC, that particular brother. And then I ran into the whole camp, and then I just ran into that brother again, like last night. And it's just apparent to me that they're not going to listen. I hope that changes, but as it stands right now, they're not going to listen. And the brothers are being, in my estimation, the brothers listen to this, they may feel otherwise, but in my estimation, the brothers are being unreasonable. And there was a brother who was on the phone. I happened to be speaking with a brother on the phone when I ran into the brother from the IUIC Lexington, Kentucky camp. And like I said, everything was relatively cordial, but we were on different sides of the fence, And the brother that was listening, who overheard the whole conversation, and I told the brother, he may not have heard it, but I said, hey, yeah, I got a brother on the phone right now, and I told the brother on the phone to hold on, and then I engaged with him for about 3, 4, 5 minutes at the most, and he overheard, because I was on the phone with him at the time, and I just had him hold on because I just ran into the brother in the parking lot. He overheard the whole conversation, and once it was all done, it was his estimation as well that the brother was unreasonable. And that's not to slight, but that's just our opinion. It's just, and it's not just that brother, IUIC as a whole, is not reasonable. That's the reason why the first encounter, the first part of this lesson series was a call to be reasonable. Okay, because I have seen from various video clips that you IUIC brothers, which I'm going to, if the Spirit allows, because everything's subject to the Spirit, starting with me running into this brother so many times, and then running into the whole camp. This is all set up by the Spirit, and going to how the second time the first time I ran into him, I didn't have any what's the word I'm looking for? How do I want to put it? I didn't have any control of my faculties. I was driven in the spirit directly into the brother, and what I mean by that is, soon as I saw the brother, it was like the spirit took over and took the remote control from my feet, from my hands, and from my mouth, and I was just driven to the brother, independent of my own free will. And I was just happy to see the brother, and I was just embracing the brother. I was all smiles. I was all, brotherly to the, but I didn't think about any of that. It just happened. It just happened. It was like the spirit took over. And so what I'm saying is this is all set up in the spirit. And I know that. And I'm aware of that. I'm consciously aware of that at all times. I'm not in control here. I'm not in control of running into the brother, whether I see the brother, ahead of time from afar, or whether I see him right when we're up on each other, whether I notice that I'm about to run it. I'm not in control of any of that. This is all set up in the spirit, and I'm aware of that. And so what I'm about to say next, same thing. If the spirit allows, because the spirit may not allow me, okay? And we're just here to do what the Father would have us to do, in the name of Yahweh Shah Mashiach through the Spirit, right? So if the Spirit allows me, I'm going to shift from speaking to the brothers so much and speak more towards the flock. Not because this is not still a call to repentance for the brothers. It is. All right, it is. Okay, because it's not too late. But the reason why is because it isn't looking good, and the brothers don't really want it. They don't really want it. So I'm gonna, if the Spirit allows, shift my focus more towards the second objective, which my focus was always both objectives. Calling the brothers to repentance, and that's still there. It's still there. That's still my desire, still my hope. But I'm disheartened, straight up. I'm disheartened on that. But it's still there. But I'm gonna shift more to the objective that I think is still more achievable, which is warning the flock that the brothers of IUIC, and I still regard them as brothers, unlike the former brothers Hakan Assad. I don't regard them as brothers anymore. The brothers of IUIC I still regard as brothers. Unless and until they repent, they are not the men to follow. And I'm just going to tell it to you point blank, period. Right? And so, in the first part 1, 4 months ago, I called the brothers to be reasonable. I made an appeal to them from my heart to be reasonable, because if they're not going to be reasonable, then it's pointless. Right? So, and then from there, parts 2 through 11, you can check it out. It's about 4 months back. It don't take that long. You can just, fast scroll and you'll find it. And then parts 2 through 11 are warning signs to show you that things aren't right in the camp that is known as IUIC. The way, the spirit in which they're moving and operating, and just, certain things to show you that they're not in the right spirit. Things aren't right there, and it needs to be addressed. Okay, not that those brothers, I'm not here to say who's a false prophet and who is and who isn't. I can tell you how things look. I can tell you it ain't looking good, but I'm not here to make that final determination. That's above my pay grade. That's the Most High, right? I can tell you how it looks, and I can tell you, well, if things don't change, then this is how to be, because this is on the track. But I'm not here to say who is or who isn't, because I don't know who's gonna repent and who's not, right? So there's warning flags though, and as it stands, there's a significant number of major red warning flags, and some yellow ones as well, telling you that those brothers, that camp, that congregation, that company of prophets isn't right as it currently stands. Okay, and for you brothers in IUIC, this is holding up a mirror to you. If you're willing to look into the mirror and see what it is your brothers are saying. We all have blind spots. We all have baffles, right? And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of brothers that are, as particularly the brothers of the Great Millstone, that are rebuking you in the spirit of brotherly love. Some more harsh, but still it's out of love and passion and zeal. First and foremost for our Father Yahweh and His only begotten Son Yahweh Shah Mashiach, all through the Spirit. And then secondly, for you, right? Are we become your enemies because we tell you the truth? Of course not, but you would maybe, seem to make us your enemy. But the brothers that I ran into, you know, and like I said, I'm glad of this because I don't really rock with the hostile stuff with brothers, man. I don't really rock with that. That's not my spirit. I'll cuss a heathen out in a heartbeat, but brothers, I got a different spirit towards brothers, even, you know. So I don't really get down with. So I'm glad that the Most High had it go that way where it wasn't really antagonistic and hostile, because I don't really rock with that too much with brothers, you know. Anyway, parts 2 through 11 were warning signs. And then I took a break, and then when I came back and picked it back up at part 12, which is here, part 12 at the bottom, 13, we started to get now into individual doctrines, specific doctrines, showing that IUIC has doctrinal errors, a growing number of serious doctrinal errors. Okay, no liars of the truth, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. This is much more than a little, and it's growing, and the brothers don't seem like they want to hear that, right? But what can I do? All right, so the first doctrine we started with, you can see on there, is their doctrine concerning multiple wives, because they're wrong on that. They say that a man cannot have multiple wives in this time. Oh, it was fine. I'm not sure whether they say it was fine in the past or not, but so, you know, whatever it was in the past is what it was. But in this time, you can't. I'm inclined to believe they would say it's okay back then. I'm inclined to believe that, but they can answer that for themselves. But you know, one thing's for certain, they're saying that you can't do it now. That's adultery. But in the kingdom of heaven, you can. Yeah, you know, Isaiah 41, that's in the kingdom of heaven. That's wrong. Okay, Isaiah 41 is on this side. That's a prophecy that's about to be fulfilled now. Okay, it's about to be fulfilled in this time now. Okay, but they would say, oh, that's in the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is not adultery anymore. Does that make any sense? That it's adultery now. It's adultery for you to do it now, but in the kingdom of heaven, it's sin, it's wicked, even adultery for you to do it now, which is a sin punishable by death. We're not enforcing that, okay, because we're in captivity, but it is a sin worthy of death. But in the kingdom of heaven, it's going to be good. You can do it. Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. That's because that's false. Okay, so anyway, a man can have multiple wives. Yes, we can have multiple wives. And Isaiah 4:1 is going to be fulfilled on this side. So we went into that for 5 parts. And then we got into another doctrine concerning marriage that IUIC has wrong. And like I said, this isn't in transit. Bear with me. I'm just giving you a recap. Okay? And what happened there? Oh, okay, I see. And that's we got into that in part 17, okay, because we was on the multiple wives for 5 parts, just to show definitively in multiple ways that they're wrong on that. Okay, it's not adultery. Okay, and that's a very dangerous thing to say. It's a very dangerous thing to say, because the Most High gave King David and every man in righteousness that had multiple wives, the Most High did that. Okay, Jacob, Abraham, Gideon, King David. Okay, these are the examples we brought out in this lesson series. Okay, and there's more, right? So to say that that's adultery and that's wicked, the Most High, you're saying that's something that the Most High did. He participated in wickedness. Okay, and we also got Ezekiel 23 and Jeremiah 3 and Matthew the 25th chapter, and showed that both the Most High and the only begotten Son, Yahweh Mashiach, both presented themselves in metaphoric speak, in parables, as being married to multiple women. Okay, so that would mean that the Most High is presenting himself as if you say that's wicked, then you're saying that the Most High presented himself in a wicked light. See, you don't want to say that, but they do. So let me move on. Okay, you can get those parts if you need more on that. Okay, and then part 17, IUIC, your doctrine on unbelieving spouses is wrong. That's right. I'm not going to recount the whole thing. This isn't in transit. I'm limited on time. But IUIC's doctrine on unbelieving spouses actually causes adultery. Okay, they unjustly say that a man having multiple wives is adultery. But then they have a policy that actually causes true adultery. And the scripture says, he that I can't remember the word, but it's something, but the meaning of it is excuses. He that excuses or exonerates the wicked, and he that condemneth the righteous, both are an abomination to our Father Yahweh. That's abominable. And that's what IUIC is doing here. That's what you brothers are doing. You know, that's what you're doing. Okay? You're calling something adultery, wicked, and evil. That's none of those things. And then something that is those things, you're calling that good. Okay? So we got that. That was the second doctrine. And now we're into the third doctrine, okay, which is the doctrine on the Revelation 13 badge, verses 16 through 18. And we've been in that since part 18, 19, and we've gotten videos that we featured, and we'll see, we might feature another one tonight. You got 20, and tonight, no, we got 21 last night. And like I said, this isn't in transit, and you know, late at night, but there's always got to be heathen right around me, which of course is a distraction. Okay, so I have to pay attention to them, especially when I'm on a curve, and they all like to tailgate. Okay, even though there's empty lanes. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with them, man. It's like there's empty lanes all over the place, but they want to be behind me. All right, so anyway, I'm losing these heathen now. Okay, so tonight's part 22, and let me just pick up a little bit of speed. I had to slow down because they don't want to pass. Let me just pick up a little bit of speed, and we'll continue on. All right, so tonight's 22, and you know, I did touch on the precept passage, Revelation 13, 16 through 18 in both parts 20, and I want to say also 21. But the Spirit was really having me going to some other things which were more loosely related to it. So that's why I gave it a different title. Okay, IUIC, this is terrible. All right, and IUIC, your lamps have gone out, right? But it's really a continuation of IUIC, your doctrine on the ark of the east, but the M on that ark and the B on that east is wrong. It's really a continuation of that. And tonight, Yahweh Razah, we're going to get directly back into that. So without any further ado, let's do just that. Yeah, let's do just that, because now this is part 22. So let's do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit of this clip. No. Let me do that later when I pull over. Actually, no. I think I can do it because I don't have to watch it. I think I can do it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play a portion of this. Yeah, I'm gonna play a portion of this, and we're gonna get into Revelation 13, 16 through 18, and then we're gonna get into Revelation 14 and Revelation 16, and we'll see. Maybe we'll touch on Revelation 20, subject to the Spirit. But 14 and 16, those chapters, okay, 9 and 10 and 11 and 14, and then verses 1 and 2 in Revelation 16, that's the punishment for taking it, okay? And keep in mind, with the version of the radio frequency ID micro C to the hip that you're going to see here, that is the most common version that's going to be put in the hands. And then you got different versions that don't look like that pretty much at all, but they also are micro C to the hips. But they don't look like the version that's going into the hand, but they are micro C to the hips, and they're going in the head. You got BlackRock, Nortec, you got Synchron, you got Neuralink, and you got others. You got other manufacturers as well. And look, they all look a little different. They don't look the same. So even with regards to the version that's going into the hands that you're going to see on this video clip, keep in mind that it's not limited to that. That's just the most common version that's going to be used as of right now. Okay, they got other versions. They got other versions of micro C to the hips that are going in the skin, and some of them don't go necessarily in the hand. Okay, because when it says he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma, you know, and it says in the right hand. All right, just understand that's the most common place it's going to be put. And same thing, the second most common place that is going to be put is the head. But it's not limited to those locations. If you get it anywhere on your body, you got it. And if it's a different shape, if it's a different color, if it's a different size than what you see here, but it's still making an indelible, imprinted mark or stamp, and it's penetrating the skin, breaking the skin, and it has information stored on it, and it's used to buy and sell. If it checks all the boxes, it's it too. You got to keep that in mind. So what we're seeing is the most common version that's going to be used in the hands. Okay? Don't say, well, this doesn't look anything like that, so I can go ahead and get this put in my body, and I can go ahead and get this C-hip put in my body, breaking the skin. Okay? All right, I can go ahead and get it put in my body, and I can go ahead and get my digital currencies, my digital wallet, and my digital ID, and everything else that's digital, other digital records stored on it, and I can use it to buy my digital, I can use my digital, all of that, my digital money, digital currencies, digital wallet, digital ID, all of that, I can go ahead and use it to buy and sell now. Okay, and I'm good because it doesn't look like the version I saw in the video. No, you're not good. That is it. It checks all the boxes. Okay, just keep in mind there are other versions that look different. Okay, so we tend to feature with this one the most, and I'm gonna try to remember to point that out more. This is the most common version that's going to be used. Okay, but others are going to get versions that look different. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, if it breaks the skin, if it breaks the skin, they even got some versions that are basically tattoos, but when they put it on you, it's a digital tattoo, but they use a needle, so it's actually breaking the skin. It's breaking the skin, okay? But it's not a regular tattoo. I was watching a video about it the other day, and it was like, yeah, this is not a traditional tattoo. It's actual hardware, but it's actually also tattooed onto the skin with similar to a regular tattoo would be, but it's not the same as that. Okay, it's I don't know all the details about it, but it tattoos a C-hip on your skin, so it's breaking the skin and it draws blood. If you know anything about getting tattoos, it bleeds a little bit because it's a needle and it's penetrating the skin like 1,000 times, however they do it, right? But it's a needle that just continuously, penetrates the skin. That's it. That's your charax. Okay, and then what you can see once they're done, that's the charagma, and then the information that's stored on it, that's the grapho. So don't get bogged down in exactly having to look like what you're going to see in the video. This is just the most common version of it. There are other versions. If it breaks the skin, okay, even if it still appears to sit on top of the skin, but it's breaking the skin because it's got a needle with it, like that version I was just telling you about. And if it's information stored on it and it's used to buy and sell, that's the RFID micro C to the hip. That's the Revelation 13 verses 16 through 18. Okay, there are other versions. That's what I'm trying to make clear to you. But this right here, what you're going to see, this is the most common and typical version, right? And this one here is easy to see. Okay.
Make a fist and squeeze the tag to the top of my skin. Or I approach the device, just squeeze the tag to the top of my skin. Or I approach the device, it opens the Facebook page I set it to.
Colin Cravino has a microchip implanted in both of his hands. From 1950s and 60s, RFID chips, short for radio frequency identification, have been used by retailers to track packages and prevent theft. Farmers use the chips to keep tabs on their livestock. Pet owners use them to identify their cats and dogs. And lately, members of the so-called body hacker movement have been
Alright, get everything opened up here. We'll start the procedure.
And for the record, in terms of a pain scale, if you can compare it to something,
Probably more like a bee sting.
The latest office innovation is a microchip implanted in the skin.
This is the first American company to ever try this.
So what are they tracking, and would you say yes if your boss asked you to do the same?
So if my employer wanted to microchip me as if I was their puppy, I would have a huge problem with it, and I would probably quit.
You could argue that the government is tracking you everywhere you go, but they are already with your phones.
Yeah, it just seems a bit permanent. If you already have an Apple Watch that's you're wearing around, at least you can take that off at some point. That's something I would do.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it would make it all a lot easier. I just think that you have to back it up with maybe some doctors saying it's good for your health, and then I think I would I would do it.
3 Square Market is a company working on one of the biotech advances at the forefront, implantable RFID or radio frequency ID microchips. The tech has been around for decades, used to track pets, packages, and livestock, but now the Wisconsin-based company is trying to make the implants mainstream. Even with all the risks and unknowns associated with this technology, I was really curious what it'd be like to have an implant. So I traveled to Wisconsin to get chipped, thinking, what's the worst that could happen? The chip is coming out at the end of the day, and the RFID chip is already inside there.
Yes.
And it's a little bit larger than a grain of rice.
Correct.
Jasmine rice, I think.
Basmati.
That's Andy Whitehead, better known as Gonzo. He's a local body piercer with 17 years of experience who was brought in to implant the microchips. I was slightly nervous about having the microchip inserted inside my body, given the size of the needle, and also nervous about what it could potentially mean for me, but here we go.
An red balloon, and a little toy house, and a young mouse. Good night, room. Good night, moon.
Just take a nice big deep breath. And exhale, release.
It's in there.
It's in there. Pretty quick and easy.
I feel like a cyborg.
Here you go, you're a proud member now.
Indeed, part of the club. Just like that, I was part of a small group of people on Earth pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human. And within minutes, I was meeting with their tech team to get my chip programmed. I guess what you're saying, to sort of put it in layman's terms, if I wouldn't need to take this out until we live in that futuristic world where everything's wireless, cash is gone, autonomous vehicles take us everywhere, and I'm just beeping my way through my day.
Really, probably you'd never have to take it out, and this is what we think is going to propel us into that next stage in life, the cashless society like they're doing overseas already. This would facilitate that because you wouldn't need to carry any cards or cash. Everything would literally be stored on the chip.
There is no GPS tracker in the chip, which was really good to know. And the applications for it were actually pretty sweet. I could now open doors, fire off texts, forget all of my passwords, and even make credit card payments. I started to wonder, is it worth getting this thing removed?
And what I'll do is I'll set yours up so that I can make a phone call.
Yeah, and that shows you a lot. That shows you the charagma, that shows you the charax, that shows you the grapho, which those are the Greek words we're going to be looking at here in a second. And when we do, we're going to come back and touch on this video and look at the parts where it brings out those 3 words, okay? Because this is how you can prove. Really, it's ultimately about faith, right? It's really ultimately about faith, right? Because even if you prove and you step through this and you show all this, if you don't have ears to hear and eyes to see, you're not going to get it. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see it. There's going to be something that you get hung up on. There's going to be some reason why you pan it, why you throw it out. But we're going to come back and look, okay, when we get to the word and we go to the Greek words, all right, we're going to come back and look at it and show it. Because the show and tell is right here in the video, okay, including the buying and selling, okay? And so let's go to the Revelation 13. There's more, but that's all we need. We don't have to play the whole video. Let's go to the Revelation 13. Okay. 16 through 18. And he causeth all, Esau, Edom, the man in control of this world system, the high mountain, Isaiah 13. All right. The 2nd Ezra 6 verses 7, 8, and 9. Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So the man that's in control at the end of this age, the end of this world, Aeon, the end of this age, okay, is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, generally speaking. Okay, but since skin color is not not an absolute. It is a generality, but it's not an absolute. So it's not about skin color per se, but that's the normal way they look. Okay, pursuant to Genesis 25 and 25. And you can put that with Isaiah 1 and 18. And you can put that with Revelation 6 and 4. But that is the way the Heavenly Father is set up for the Edomites to look. But they don't all look like that. Most do, but not all. So then it's not truly about skin color. So what is it truly about? It's truly about bloodlines. They are the bloodline descendants of Esau. Okay? Jacob's evil, wicked twin brother. Okay? Whom the Most High Yahweh hates. And he causeth all, both small and great. All. Small, don't matter. Great, don't matter. Everything in between. Rich and poor, and everything in between. Free and bond, and everything in between. Because there are levels, man. You know, You can be more in slavery or less in slavery, right? To receive a charagma, that is the Greek word, in their right hand. Let's look at that word for right, because some are going to say, well, wait a minute. In other places, it's going in the left hand, so how can that be it? Well, the scriptures is focused on the main scene of end-time biblical prophecy. The main climatic scene of end-time biblical prophecy is America, Babylon the Great. And here it's the literal right hand, typically, but not in all cases. What if somebody don't have a right hand? They're going to get it in their left, okay? What if somebody don't have any hands? They're going to get it in a nub or a wrist or something, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, this is just generalities. This is what's most common. Most people on the planet are going to get it in a hand. Most and second most common is going to be the head. But let's look at this word for right. I must have missed it. There it is. See, you get this dexios, right, which goes into dexterity. And bear with me, somebody, a heathen's coming up on me at a pretty high rate of speed. Let me just make sure they pass. All right. And you see there that there's a metaphoric application for this. A place of honor or authority. Okay, the example I always use is you know somebody has a person that they count on to get things done more so than anyone else. They can really count on this person, and they say, this is my right hand man. But their right hand man, when they say that, might be standing on their left, because the right is not literal. It means like main or primary. Okay, so whatever hand you use the most, that's your right hand. All right, don't get caught up on the literal meaning of right. Okay, here in America, it is typically going to be literally the right hand that they're using here. But over in Europe and other places, it's the left. Okay, it doesn't matter. It means the primary hand. All right, and that's the reason why other places in the scripture it does not specify right or left. It just says hands. Here in Revelation 13, it says right hand, primary, whatever hand you use the most. Okay, and some people are going to get it in other places, but most are going to get it in a hand. Okay, or in their foreheads. And what we're going to find out when we look into this word for foreheads, let's just show that now before we break down the word ark. Okay, just give me a second. I'm going through a construction zone. All right, there's no construction going on now, but you know, it's like a single lane and all that with cones and stuff. So let me just get through it, almost through it. All right, and let's just show this right now, because people also get tripped up on the English. Okay, it says forehead, and people think, well, literally on the forehead. It has to be on the literal forehead. Okay, that's not the case. Okay, that's why you gotta, you know, like the brothers, like the IUIC brothers were saying here, and that's why I said this is terrible. He was saying, you know, why I got to go to the Greek? Why I got to go to the Hebrew? In other words, he basically he's mocking that, and you can't see it. It's not on the screenshot there, on the thumbnail there, but when I play the video, there's a caption above his head which refers to those of us that look up words in the original language. In the Greek and Hebrew, it refers to us as deep dummies. So we dummies because we trying to be deep, looking up the Greek and the Hebrew. But you absolutely have to, or you will not understand in the English alone. All right, and the reason why them brothers don't like to look up the Greek and the Hebrew is because when you look it up in the Greek and the Hebrew, the original language, it exposes and validates and confirms that their doctrine is false, that their doctrine is flawed, it's erred, and they don't like that, and so that's why they mock it. They mock looking up the words. Okay, that's like somebody who's reading something in English, but they don't know what it means, but they want to superimpose what they think it means, and what they think it means and what they want it to mean on the actual wording, and then somebody else comes along, and when they read it in English, they're like, well, I don't know what this word means. So they get out their Webster's dictionary and look it up so that he can know exactly what it's saying, And the person that doesn't want to look up the words because they want it to mean what they think it means, they want it to mean what they want it to mean, they mock the person who looks up the words. Are you a deep dummy for looking up the meaning of the words? What you looking at the meaning of the words for? You being a deep dummy. Okay? Well, you see how absurd that is? That's absurd. That's why I said this is terrible. Right? So when we go here and we look up this word for foreheads, okay? And we're going to find out that it is the Greek word metapon. Bear with me. Okay, metapon. Okay, and it does indeed. Now, see, when the scholars, I don't know. I suspect they might have did this on purpose, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they should have known better. Okay, how did they miss this? I don't know. They should have known better, because when you look this word up in the Greek, okay, it does indeed mean the space between the eyes, which you could say is the forehead, in another, in a less wordy way. But this word has a root word, and all of the meaning of the root word is wrapped up and included in the words that come from it. So that's not the entirety of what this word means. In order to really fully understand everything that this word means, you have to go to the root word. That's why they put it here. But you have to click on it and read it. They put it here for you, but you still got to click on it and read it. So when we click on it to read it, so that we can get the full understanding, the additional understanding of what this word metapon means, we find out that it's not just the region between the eyes. Okay, so we get it, and it's the Greek word meta, which that is no coincidence that it ties into the parent company. They changed the name from Facebook to Meta. Yeah, that's no coincidence, man. I'm not going to get into that right now, but we see that along with the region between the eyes, it now brings in with it also after, behind. So no, it is not just the region between the eyes, it is the region between and behind and or behind the eyes. The region between and or behind the eyes. In other words, your head. Anywhere on your head. Yes, it could be the forehead. As of right now, I don't know any versions that are going on the forehead. They're all going on the head, yes, but none that I know of are actually going on the forehead right now. They might come up with something like that. Okay? Some people are crazy enough and wacky enough to do it. You see all these different colors of hair and all these piercings and all this other stuff that's going. People are wacky and crazy, so I would expect they're going to come up with a version for the head. But the forehead, I meant to say a version for the forehead. The forehead is on the head. So yes, the forehead is included, but it's not limited to that. It's anywhere on the head. Okay? And most of all of the versions that I'm aware of, they all go on the head, but none of them go on the forehead. But the forehead is included. It's not limited to the forehead. It should say, or in the head, or on their head, in their head. Okay? Because the forehead makes it too restrictive. It's too restrictive. It's too limiting. Okay? It's not just the forehead. It's anywhere on the head. All right? Most of the versions rather that I'm aware of as of right now go like towards the back of the head. The back of the head, behind the ear, stuff like that. Maybe on the side of the head towards the back. Those are the versions I've seen so far. Okay? And I don't keep up with it like that though. So they may, I would expect they're going to come out with a version for the forehead, but keep in mind it's talking about anywhere on the head. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that because these are the things that'll trip people up. Now let's get into this word for ark, the book of Mark, right? Drop the book of, and we find out. I'm gonna pause this because I'm gonna really use the video to really show what these words mean. So let me pause it until I get to a place where I can pull over. All right, I pulled over for this portion of the lesson. Let's dig into this word charagma. All right, and there it is, G5480. And you can't argue with this. Okay, you can pan it, you cannot believe it, you can come against it, but you can't disprove it. It's true. All right, charagma in the Greek, the CH, just like the Hebrew, makes a cha sound, right? Charagma. You know, if you don't know how to say that, you can say charagma. Or some say karagma, right? But, you know. And you see, it says here, a stamp and imprinted mark. Okay? A distinguishing indication. That's what it's really saying. A stamp and imprinted mark. Okay? Let's skip, because they're trying to really stick in some of their pagan Christian doctrine there. The ark branded upon horses. Let's look at 2. I want to focus in on the stamp and printed mark, right? Thing carved, sculpture, graven work, okay? Because that's exactly what it looks like. Going back to the beginning of this video.
Make a fist.
And you can see it. You can see it. Let's get that off the screen. Oh shoot! Anyway, it's part of the video, but you can see it. Let me highlight it. I'm gonna show it again. All right, give me a second. Let me get my colors up here. What color I want to use? Let's use this one here. But you can see it right there. Right there. Let me draw it a little bit bigger, kind of in the way. You can see it right there. That's the stamp. That's the imprinted ark. That's that it looks like it was stamped right into his hand. It looks like it was graven into his hand, like if you had a piece of wood and you grave or carve whatever you want to make it into. That's what it looks like. It looks like it was carved right into his hand, or it was stamped right into his hand. It's a distinguishing indication or distinguishing ark. And you can see it right there. That's what that's talking about. That is the charagma. Okay? That's the charagma. That's what that word means. And they're going to show it again a little later. So let me let it play. Oh, I got to get rid of this. Let's see here. Okay.
Squeeze the tag to the top of my skin. When I approach the device, it opens the Facebook page I set it to.
There's it. That was another excellent example of it. Let me back that up a little bit. That's the charagma right there. That's what that word means. You see it right there. Okay? And again, there will be other versions. Okay? But they're all going to fit this definition for charagma all the way down to the core, because there are 2 root words. So it's going to match the charagma, it's going to match the charax, it's going to match the grapho, and it's also going to match the description in the scriptures of how it will be used. And also something that's pushed on the whole world. See, so whatever form or fashion the radio frequency ID micro C to the hip comes in, okay, it's going to fit all those things, and it will be used to buy and sell. Commonly, typically, it's going to be this, right? And again, this right here, that's it. That's what the word charagma is talking about. Okay? Another example. This is what the word charagma, and then right here, I'm just going to underline it so that circles aren't overlapping. That's what the charagma is talking about. Again, a stamp, an imprinted mark, thing carved, sculpture, graven work. And that's what it's talking about right there. Okay? So that's your charagma. Let's move on. Okay? Now, this word here, like I told you before with the Greek word translated to forehead, which is metapon, and I told you that the meaning of the root word is wrapped up and included in the meaning of the word that comes from it. That's why they include the root word. Okay, it's not just there because they just wanted something extra to put there. In order to fully understand what the word means, you have to know what the root word that it came from means, because that's included. That's innate and inherent in the meaning of the word. So if you just look at the word itself, you're missing something. You're not going to get the full understanding of what the word means. They're actually really only giving you the additional meaning that builds on the foundation that's already laid by the root word. So they're really only giving you the surface top level meaning that's added due to the new word. To get the full meaning, you have to click on the root word. So let's click on it. We already saw that, yeah, that fits the charagma. We saw that. I just showed it to you, highlighted and everything, yellow circles and everything, right? Let's see if it fits the meaning of the word charax that charagma comes from. And charax means a pail or stake. Okay, everybody knows from the Dracula movies, how do you kill, Dracula? Well, you drive a wooden stake through his heart, right? So what do you do with that stake? You drive it. You pierce. A stake is used to pierce or penetrate something. A palisade or a rampart. That's like a barrier or a barricade or even a fence that is made out of usually wooden stakes, wooden beams that are sharp on the end so that they can be just simply driven into the ground. They can be pierced and penetrated and driven by force into the ground. See, so this word charax here, from which you get the Greek word charagma, involves and carries with it the idea of something piercing and penetrating something else. And the something would be the radio frequency ID micro C to the hip, and the thing pierced and penetrated would be you if you take it. So we see that this word here carries with it the idea and the meaning of something being pierced and penetrated. So does this fit that? Absolutely. Let's watch it from the beginning again, I'll pause it.
I'll make a fist and squeeze the tag to the top of my skin. When I approach the device, it opens the Facebook page I set it to.
Colin Cravino has a microchip implanted in both of his hands. From 1950s and 60s.
That's the charax right there. That white applicator needle there, okay, and you see the sharp beveled cut injector, and they even show at one point
RFID chips.
They show it being used. Let me see if I can find that. I think it's here.
In terms of a pain scale, if you can compare it to something,
Probably more like a bee sting.
Let me see.
The latest office innovation is a microchip implanted in the skin.
I thought they were going to show it there. They actually show it being injected out. I think it's coming up here. There you go. That was it.
today. And the RFID chip is already inside there.
That's it.
Yes.
That's the charax right there.
Larger than a grain of.
That's the charax. That's the pail. That's the stake. That's the palisade. Okay, so we see that it fits and meets the definition of charax. So going back to the top, the word translated to ark, put an M on that in the English, is charagma. It fits that. I showed you. Then the root word charax carries with it the idea of something being pierced and penetrated. It fits that. I just showed you that. But there is a root word for charax as well. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was missing it there for a second. My finger was on. The root word for charax is grapho. Let's see if it fits that. What does grapho mean? And I'm going to get straight to the chase on this one because it has a bit of a word salad on it, right? But I'm going to get straight to the chase. You can most of these definitions you can work with, but I'm going to get straight to the chase on it. Okay? And you gotta keep in mind that the it says right. Don't get hung up on that, man. All right, because you got to put that right in quotation marks. All right. Let me see here. Let's get the first one as well. To write with reference to the form of letters. In other words, it's not limited to writing in the sense that you would think about writing. Okay. If you have a typewriter and you typing things, are you writing it like with a pen? No, you're not. But you are writing it, so to speak. See, even if you typing on a typewriter, or if you write something on your computer and then print it out, that all falls under writing in this with regards to this definition. You have to understand that, okay? Don't get hung up on technicalities. All right. To write with reference to the form of letters, to delineate. There you go. That's a better word. Because that broadens it up. That broadens it up and opens it up to other ways of it's not just writing with your hand, a pen and paper. To delineate, that's a better way to put it. Or form, and however you form them, electronically or manually. Letters on a tablet. Well, it's not a tablet, right? Well, it's not done. Parchment. It's not parchment, right? I know. Or paper. It's not paper. It's not tablet. It's not parchment. It's not paper. Or other material. That's a catch-all. So in other words, on anything. The tablet, the parchment, and the paper are just a few examples. Really, anything. That's why you have the catch-all at the end. It's a catch-all. In other words, anything. To delineate or form letters, information on anything. Let's get a little bit more. To commit to writing, again, put that writing in quotation marks. This is about delineating, right? Delineating or forming. To commit to writing, delineate or form things not to be forgotten. Write down, delineate. Record. What's another word for record? Store. What's another word for store that's more applicable to an electronic format? Save. Store. Okay? So this carries with it the idea of information being stored, information being saved, information being stored on something in some fashion. And the something in this case is the radio frequency ID micro C2 to hip, and the information is stored on it. So we've already seen that it starts with charagma, then it goes to charax. We've seen that it checks both of those. What about the grapho? Is there anything about information being stored on this radio frequency ID micro C2 to hip? You already know the answer because you was paying attention, but I'm going to show it again. Right here. This is where they get into that. Well, they touched on it already, but let me play this portion.
Part of the club. Just like that, I was part of a small group of people on Earth pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human. And within minutes, I was meeting with their tech team to...
A small group in comparison to the world population, but not so small, and growing much more rapidly than you think. Okay? I'm of the mind that they probably already have tens of millions of people, maybe possibly even north of 100 million people worldwide who have it. Keep in mind that 80 million people is still less than 1% of the world population. The world population, to get to 1%, is going to be something north of 80 million. That's already tens of millions of people. And you can have 160 plus million, and you know, basically that would be about 2%. You can have 120, 30, 40, 50 million people worldwide that have this, and you still less than 2% of the world population. That can be easily hidden, especially if the majority of them are in third world countries. If the majority of them are in third world countries, like over there in Ham, the Hamitic nations, over in the land called Africa today, and over there in some of the other parts of Indonesia and places like that, over in there in Japan, and over there in which Japan and I meant not really so much Japan, but which Japan and China are using it. They're doing it as well. But I meant to say over there in China, right? Various different places, remote places of China. You bring in these third world regions, which China is not third world, they're first world. But you bring in these third world regions, and you got a lot of population in like Indonesia, various different places in Indonesia, and over there in these Hamitic nations and other third world places, right? Indonesia is kind of like an emerging market, but certain places are really kind of still third world, depending on where you're at in Indonesia, right? You got large populations over there. You can easily hide. You can run up on 5 to 10%, easily hiding it. Okay, so and I think that's what they're doing. So when they finally do the hard push, where they really push this Revelation 3:10, the hour of temptation, I believe they're going to have a hell of a running head start. Right? They're going to have a hell of a running head start. Okay, so yes, it's a small in comparison to the world population, but it's not small, on an absolute scale. It's not.
Get my chip programmed. I guess what you're saying, to sort of put it in layman's terms, if I wouldn't need to take this out until we live in that futuristic world where everything's wireless, cash is gone, autonomous vehicles take us.
Cash is gone. Why? Because you're not going to need cash. Your digital cash, your digital currency is going to be graphoed onto it. We already checked it.
Everywhere, and I'm just beeping my way through my day.
Really, probably you'd never have to take it out, and this is what we think is going to propel us into that next stage in life, the cashless society like they're doing overseas already. This would...
Cashless society. Doing it already overseas.
Facilitate that, because you wouldn't need to carry any cards or cash.
Don't need to carry any cards or cash.
Everything would literally be stored on...
What did he just say? I think he just said grapho.
Facilitate that, because you wouldn't need to carry any cards or cash. Everything would literally be stored.
He did. He said everything would literally be graphoed. Listen again.
Facilitate that, because you wouldn't need to carry any cards or cash. Everything would literally be stored on the chip.
Grapho.
There is no GPS tracker in the chip, which was really good to know. And the applications for it were actually pretty sweet. I could now open doors, fire off texts, forget all of my passwords, and even make credit card payments.
Make
I
what?
started to wonder.
Even make what?
I could now open doors, fire off texts, forget all of my passwords, and even make credit card payments.
Even make credit card payments.
Pretty sweet. I could now open doors, fire off texts, forget all of my passwords, and even make credit card payments. I started to wonder, is it worth getting this thing removed?
And what I'll do is...
Right, and at the end, he didn't get it removed. He didn't get it removed. Okay, he started off planning to get it removed at the end of the... It don't matter. Look, if you get it, you got it, man. Can a woman remove the semen of the man that she's laid down with from her body? No. And neither will you be able to remove that charagma. You can take it out. You can get it removed, but it ain't going to change anything. You got it. Okay? You did it. Okay? It cannot be undone. You can take it out all you want, but it isn't undone. Okay? One more time, though.
Really good to know. And the applications for it were actually pretty sweet. I could now open doors, fire off texts, forget all of my passwords, and even make credit card payments. So that's telling us everything we need to know. We can get rid of that now. Okay? Because now we know, yeah, he even said it. Okay? All of that will be stored, all of that will be graphoed right onto your micro C to the hip. And whatever version it is. You know, whether it's the common typical version like you're seeing here, or some unusual version that's a little bit more techie, a little bit more cool in how it looks on your skin. Okay? All right, like that tattoo version I was hearing about. Okay? But they made sure to point out in there that this was no regular tattoo. There's digital hardware that's being tattooed onto your skin with needles, and they pointed it out. So with the needles, there's your charax. And you can see it sitting right on your skin once they're done. So that's the charagma. And it's a radio frequency ID micro C to the hip. So the information is stored on it. And you're going to use it to buy and sell. It checks all the boxes. So whatever version you see put in front of you, if it checks all those boxes, that's it. Okay? But this is what you saw in the video. That's the common, most typical version that's going to be used. Okay? It's cheapest, you know? Most people are going to get that. Okay? The elect ain't getting it. Okay? So we just showed, and there is, I meant to point that out. There is no root word. You see there, root word etymology, a root word. So grapho does not have a root word. So we started at charagma, we went to charax, we went to grapho, and we showed that it meets all the definitions for the starting word and both of the root words, and that's all. So it meets the definition of the word charagma. It meets the definition of the word translated to arc, put an M on that, all the way to its core. And what is its core? Grapho. That's as far as it goes. That's the core. It meets it all the way down to the core. You cannot argue with this. You can do whatever you want, but you can't. You can do whatever you want, but you can't disprove this. You can come against it. I suppose you can even argue it, but it's pointless. It's vain. It's futile. All right. So now the only question is, does it meet the description of how it's going to be used as outlined in the scriptures? And you already know. And he causeth all both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their right hand, meaning primary, could be left, or in their foreheads, meaning anywhere in your head. I already showed you that. Here, let's see if it meets verse 17.
and that no man might buy or sell. What he said. You're not going to need any wallets. You're not going to need any cash. You're not going to need any cards. Cashless, just like overseas. All of that's going to be graphoed onto your micro C to the hip. Okay? That it's going to be you use your micro C to the hip, or that's it. That's going to be the only option. Haven't you noticed how you're going into so many stores today, and I've noticed multiple stores that are doing this, where when you walk in, they have those like flapper gates. And I'm like, you don't really think much of it at first, but then you ask yourself a question: why are they putting that in there? Right now, you walk up to it and it opens. They're putting it in there because what they're going to do is they're going to tie a radio frequency micro C to the hip reader to it, and you're going to have to scan for entry. And if you don't pass the scan, or you're unwilling to scan, or you don't have a micro C to the hip, you're not going to be able to come in. It's there for access once they fully implement this system, which is very soon, very shortly to come to pass. Okay? No man might buy or sell save he that had the charagma. You're going to have to scan your charagma. It may start off with QR codes. It may start off with something external to the body or some other wearable or your palm, but it's going to quickly switch to the micro C to the hip. Without that, you are not going to be allowed in. Save he that, and if you're not allowed in, you're not going to be able to buy anything. And nor will you be able to sell anything. Your business just fold up shop. You ain't going to be able to do business without this. So yeah, and he told you right there in the video. So it meets this too. And he said, I can even make credit card, payments. That's buying. And it's also going to be selling too. Because it's probably going to be a transfer from one C to the hip to the other. Okay? I'm going to beep it right here, and it's going to go from yours to mine. Okay? So if you got to have one to buy it, but then you also got to have it to get paid. So you're not going to be able to buy or sell unless you had the charagma, save he that had the charagma, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, which is all basically the same thing, said three different ways. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding, okay, understanding, bawayan tawab. Bawayan is understanding. Bayan is understand. Bawayan, putting a WA in the middle, a Y in the middle, makes it like a present tense. Understanding, puts the ing on it. Okay, tawab is good. Bawayan tawab, good understanding. Let him that hath understanding, okay, bawayan, count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, you got to know that you're nothing but a product. You're nothing but cattle. Goyim is what they call the masses to Esau Edom, to the elites of Esau Edom, even their own people. Even their own people, just cattle, just goyim, okay? A product. Slaves that are owned, tagged. We've all watched the nature shows, growing up, and Esau will catch a beast and then he'll tag it and let it go. That's what he's looking to do to all mankind, okay? And on that, what you going to have on that? You're going to have a UPC, which stands for Universal Product Code. Everything that's bought and sold today has a UPC, and every UPC has 666 in it. The 666. They all do. They used to put the sixes, but then they stopped putting the sixes. But it's still there, easy and plain to see, because you can't not have it there. It's there. The whole system is built on it. It's built on it. So, and what they would do is they took the sixes off, but you'll still see the lines there. The lines that denote the sixes are still there. There it is, boom, right there. Okay? And the lines for the sixes are a little bit longer than the other lines. Okay? Because the sixes are already there. They're not, those numbers are not regular numbers. They don't change. They're always there. That's why the lines were a little longer. But as we brought this truth out, then they tried to hide it. How are they going to hide it? Well, they make the lines that denote the sixes, they make it the same length. Now they're not longer anymore. Doesn't change a thing. Once you see it, you can't not see it. Once you know it's there, it doesn't matter. You're wasting your time trying to hide it. Because I still see it. It's right there. You just made it the same length as all the other lines. Well, what did they do next? Well, what they did next to try to hide it is that they moved it from being on the edges to 1 digit in. So now they would have a regular number to the left, and then the 6 on the left, and then they still have the 6 in the middle, and then they have this a number on the right, and a number on the right preceding the 6 that's on the right. So in other words, they trying all kinds of things to hide it, but once you know it's there, you can't miss it. It's always there. There's no way for it to not be there, because their system is built on it. So what are they going to do? They're going to take a UPC and they're going to attach it to each and every RFID micro C to the hip, making you a product, tagging you and releasing you. Okay? And all they got to do is take your social security number and just slap six on the left, 6 on the right, and a 6 in the middle, and associate that to your radio frequency ID micro C to the hip. Boom, done. That's what this is talking about. All right? So you either see that or you don't. Okay? And if you don't, there's nothing I can do for you. You obviously haven't been given ears to hear and eyes to see, and that means you're not of the elect. And if you're following a prophet, a teacher, a pastor, a preacher, an apostle who doesn't preach this and doesn't warn you about this, then that is not, unless they come to the understanding later on, they're not a true man of the Lord. Okay? They're not a true man of the Lord. Okay? If you're a true man of the Lord, you're going to see this. And I did my best to make it plain upon tables to you today, in accordance with Habakkuk 2, verses 1, 2, and 3. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Before I do, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shabbat, Recha HaKodash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching, pushing the truth throughout the four corners of the earth. I don't want to Razaz, that's what's edifying and encouraging to you, Achim, and any Achwaf that may be listening and or watching. Ayashmi Akwana, Azanyum La Shemai Shemai. Let him who has ears to hear, hear. Kwam Yasharala, Baba Kusha Abad Baba Aitha, Wakal Adawam. Shalom Lahabachayim, peace to the elect. And I almost forgot about the punishment for taking it in Revelation 14 and Revelation 16. So I guess we'll have one more part getting into the charagma, and then we'll move to the next doctrine. So we'll have one more part to get the punishment. Okay, peace to the elect. Okay, shalom, peace be unto you all. Shalom.